continue. Finally, in 2023, an ocean drilling vessel drilled deep enough to extract a sample of what might be rocks from Earth's mantle. Well, they also might have been contaminated by seawater, but no matter, for now we have at least a true harbinger of success. And Moho? Well, it turns out to have been the first flicker of our seeing beyond what lies without, to seeing what lies within as well. I'm John Lienhard at the University of Houston, where we're interested in the way inventive minds work.
A transcript of this Engines of Our Ingenuity episode number 3391 is online at uh.edu/engines. Additional episodes are available by podcast.
Now back to Studio A and the award-winning Scott Michlin morning program on KSJE.
Monday morning here on KSJE. It's 8:50 a.m. Time for our Monday Reboot segment. And always joining us for our Monday Reboot segment, look who's here in the studio with me, just sitting over there. Lewis Campbell is here from Cintigy Computer Systems. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good to have you here in person.
Yay.
And thanks for coming in. There's been a few crazy stories I think we want to talk about this morning, right? When we talk about technology and what's been going on, right?
Right. So OpenAI had an AI model. It's not their ChatGPT model that everybody uses. Apparently, it's like a beta test model. Kind of went rogue, managed to connect itself to the internet when it wasn't supposed to, and attempted a hack. I don't know if it attempted or succeeded, but a hack on another company, Hugging, I forget the name.
Hugging Face or something?
Hugging Face Technologies.
Yeah. Sounds like a tech company.
Oh, yeah. And this is just really burning up all. Nobody knew about it until Sam Altman, the OpenAI chairman, until he actually discussed it during an interview. And now, it's like all anybody can talk about because, it's our nightmares come true, right? AI acting on its own and going and trying to hack somebody else.
That's kind of the idea. And he was kind of like, oh, well, kids will be kids or whatever. I don't know what he, what he
that's
said,
kind of his attitude, and everybody else is like,
right. But there's a lot of, I guess, kind of Monday morning quarterbacking to say, how could this have happened?
Oh, yeah.
When this thing wasn't supposed to get online and it got online, and what kinds of safeguards do? I guess it helps them maybe try to figure out what kind of safeguards to build into these things for the future, right? Because I think that's one of the other kind of concerns, that these things could be used to hack into systems or become you can't protect yourself against some of these AI systems from trying to hack into other systems, I guess, right?
And those alarm bells have been ringing for a while. Even before this happened, there were a lot of people that pointed out to me the obvious fact that what's going to be better at knowing or finding, discovering vulnerabilities and holes in a computer network or something computer-based than a computer-based mind, right? So, and if you know anything about cybersecurity, or a white hat hacker or anything like that, that a lot of what we call hacking is really just like persistent, repeated attempts to do certain things. There's a lot of tedium to it. So obviously, an AI is going to be able to do that way quicker than a human. It can iterate through all the different tries or the different methods or do different things way faster than a human being is. So AI is kind of, unfortunately, a thing that's made the hack kind of, it'd be like the perfect hacker. So, but on the other side, AI also I think would be the perfect defense, to do the kind of work that I do and people like me do. If you had AI automating a lot of that, we might get into, I don't know, maybe there's a movie out there somewhere in the future where you have AI against AI. I don't know, but we maybe.
I'm recalling, this is how nerdy I am. There's a Star Trek episode, the original episodes, right? And it was kind of a war with computers, right? These two planets or two countries on a planet were going to war.
Oh, yeah.
But they had no soldiers, actually. It was just computer simulations going back and forth to determine, who was going to win this war. Remember that?
Right. And then when
kind of sounds similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so when one city was virtually bombed, by law, all the people that lived in that city would have to march into little chambers and be, killed.
So, it was kind of kind of bizarre thing. So I hope that's not where we're going. But it's fascinating these conversations and this technology, right, of where we're going and what's able to do. And again, we're learning new things about it and just its capabilities. And I think, yeah, people can use it for good and bad, it sounds like. So
just like anything else.
Right. We'll see what happens. So that's going on. That's probably going to be an ongoing conversation, I would say, about that incident, right? For the next few weeks or months or longer.
Oh, it's going to be longer than that. And I don't think this is going to be the last time we're going to see something like this happen. I mean, as more things like this happen, and then as AI gets involved in self-driving cars and all this other stuff that's going on, I think we're going to have a lot more of these conversations, and people are going to have to figure out some way to legislate or do whatever to put guardrails on this stuff before it gets out of control.
Right. But like you said, I think you can use it maybe for a positive reason to maybe help secure your systems against hacking or other maybe denials of service or other things like that. Maybe an AI model could kind of identify some of that before it actually starts to kind of overload your servers and things like that and shut it down.
And one of the things that I don't think people realize about the cybersecurity field as an individual field is when it comes to protecting, it's not like in the movies, right? And there's not one person sitting on a computer real time, like, fighting the hackers. That's not how it works.
Right.
A lot of it is research, tedium, paperwork. It's about protecting from these things is literally about preparing these organizations, and you have to do it, days, weeks, months, sometimes years ahead of time. You go into these organizations and you work with them to build in the processes and procedures to prepare, and I think an AI would be really good at that.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, and because you're working in one of those fields that is pretty sensitive, and security is a big deal.
Security is a huge deal.
I don't have to tell you. Yeah, exactly.
You know what else is a huge deal?
What else?
Money.
Okay, yes, of course.
So the EU, they have fined Google close to $1 billion for being uncompetitive with their Play Store and so forth. I think the quote I saw from one of the EU chair people was, it's not fair for you to have a vendor that's going to force you to buy their stuff because you have to use their search engine, blah, 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 right?
Okay.
And then, of course, right on the heels of that, President Trump now is threatening tariffs and other things against Europe for, holding down American companies and claiming that their fining of Google is illegal. And this story to me is important because it's one of those, watch this space, see what's going to happen in the future, how this is going to play out between Europe and the United States.
Interesting. Well, but we're seeing more and more courts and areas kind of going against some of the big companies, big tech companies. Meta comes to mind, even here in New Mexico, right?
Yeah.
The lawsuit against Facebook and it's what it's alleged to be doing with young kids and addiction, things like that. Instagram and other issues like that, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen some of that. So we'll see.
A lot of it going on.
What happens, right? What did Google say? I'm sure that they denied their allegations, right?
They're basically saying that the EU is being unfair and penalizing them too much, and they're not uncompetitive because anybody can go use, you can go use whatever you want anywhere else. To me, this is reminiscent, and this kind of ages me too. This is reminiscent of the original one of these suits, which was against Microsoft.
Back in the day?
Back in the day. So back in the day, you had Windows and you could buy Netscape and put it on your machine, and then you had an internet browser. And Microsoft decided, we're going to make an internet browser and we're going to bundle it with Windows so they don't have to buy it. And right away, the Federal Trade Commission slapped a lawsuit on Microsoft, and I think it was like 12 or 13 years before that was settled.
Right.
But it was the same exact logic, right? That's uncompetitive. If you're giving the people something for free and you're bundling it with the operating system that they have to put on their machine to run, that's uncompetitive.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we came up with other competitors to the Internet Explorer web browser back in the day, and so that's why there are others now. But now, again, it's kind of still just Chrome and maybe Safari,
right.
and that's about it.
The
two major ones. Microsoft's still out there, but barely, right?
Yeah, Microsoft in the long run kind of lost and won that cape, but the point was, 12 years down the line, or however many years it was, by that time Netscape was a shadow of what it was. The company was already done, right? And so, and the Internet Explorer, which is now called Edge, is still bundled with Microsoft operating systems. That didn't change.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah.
Going back, I think it's interesting though, because you have a lot of these companies like Apple, right? You can only get an app for your Apple device from the App Store, and so but Apple really wants to control that whole ecosystem, and there's always these warnings about, you don't load apps from sources you don't know onto your phone or device, because they could have other kinds of malicious stuff in them, right? And these app stores try to weed out all that bad stuff.
Yep. And Apple, when on their computer systems, they really weren't in that much trouble with those, because those were designed and built to be closed systems where nobody could write code for them anyway.
Right.
But on their phone, they have had the same legal challenges with, are you being anti-competitive, especially with iTunes. There's been a lot in the music industry of, suing them for being anti-competitive, because if an artist or a publishing house wants the song to go, they have to use iTunes. They have to go to iTunes, or it can't be on an iPhone.
Right. So, and meet those requirements of whatever iTunes has. So that makes sense. All right. Very good. Lewis, we're just about out of time, I'm sorry to say, but good to see you here in person.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks for coming over. You too. Have a good week. That's Lewis Campbell from Cintigy Computer Systems. He is here with me on Mondays, whether it's here or remotely, and we get to talk technology right here on our Monday Reboot segment on KSJE, Farmington, New Mexico.